guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Ha 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 ha. Before y'all go down into my comment section talking about why is it up on Friday and not on Thursday, this is why you should probably follow me on my social medias, including my Twitter and my Instagram, because I did let you guys know that I was dealing with some family stuff. However, let's not forget that I did have my story time up early last week and had it up a day early, so why don't we just call it even, okay? But thank you guys so much for coming to join me for story time today. I hope you guys are excited. Get your wine, get your snacks, get your popcorn, girl, because we're about to have story time. Tell by the title of this video, this story is going to be about the time that I dated the bad boy. God, I wish that YouTube would just let us name our videos whatever we wanted to name it, but you know, y'all already know the whole dealio with that. I just feel like I have another title that would have fitted better, but you guys will understand later on in the video, okay? But yes, this will be the story about the time that I dated the bad boy. So the guy that we're going to be discussing today is a guy that I have yet to tell you guys about, but I've kind of like summarized it, kind of, sort of, in my last story time. If you guys haven't seen it, it is a two-parter. It's about my prom experience. It's super cringy, just saying. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it down below, leave it up here for you guys. Definitely check it out. But I did mention him briefly in my last story time, and it was like one of the girls that was like at my prom dinner didn't like me because of him. So this is going to be about the guy that I dated for like legit 2 weeks before I met Robert's funky ass. If you guys would like to hear this story, please keep on watching. My boobs are like making a very grand appearance right now, and I do apologize. Y'all know I usually be wearing, you know, necklines up to here and stuff, but like this is a cute shirt, but my boobs have grown because of, you know, me being pregnant. So I'm sorry. As usual, before we get into today's story time, today's glamour shot of the day is my beautiful Glamazon Carla. She sent me her gorgeous Glamazon shot on my Twitter. Thank you so much, Carla, for all of your love and support. I really do appreciate it. If you guys would like the chance to be featured in one of my videos as my glamour shot, please send your glamour shot over to me either on Twitter or on Instagram. Either one works. And use the hashtag Glamazon shot, okay? Not glamour shot, because people's like Walmart glamour shots are on there. You guys know that I would not be here without you, and I could not do this without each and every one of you guys, so thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Now let's get to the story time, girl. So this story takes place when I was 17 years old, and I had transferred over to my fourth and final high school. The good thing about this transfer was I did not feel completely new, okay? By this point, I had already been to 3 other high schools, and there were actually a few people from my shitty school that had transferred to this school. So I had known people that were going to this school. Also, I had a really good friend of mine that went to my church, and he was going to this school as well. So like, I honestly went into this school so excited. Like I said, I did transfer to the school in the middle of the year, so I missed the deadlines for the sports that I was interested in. And the only sports that I was interested in was basketball or volleyball, and both of which had already like done their tryouts and stuff. So like being in sports in this school was kind of out of the realm of possibility for me right now. But I still wanted to get involved in something. I'll be real with y'all. I wanted to get involved in things like after school and like not go home, because at this point, you guys, I was like over Ariel's funky ass. I really was. Like, she and I were not on good terms at this point. Like I swear, like I was just very annoyed with her, and I was done. So like the less time I spent at home, the better. As most of you guys know, Ariel was still in middle school while I was in high school, so like she was always home before I got there. Always. Like there was never a point in time, unless she had like a doctor's appointment or something, there was never a point in time that I got home before her. So I would always make it a point to like get involved in a club or in a sport or something, so that I wouldn't have to go straight home. You know, go home and find some boys up in my house or whatever. I just didn't want to deal with it. Everything was going really well, you guys. I would say maybe like 2-3 weeks in, I started seeing these posters in the girls' bathroom and was talking about step audition. So I had heard of step before. I always loved it. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was something that I could do. So I saw these posters going up in the bathrooms. I can't get into sports right now, but like this would be so much fun. I'd be a part of a team. I'd be able to dance and perform. Like I always loved performing. So I decided that I would try out for my school step team. After school comes around and the auditions are taking place, I get there and I just see like a bunch of girls. It's like split up kind of, and you can tell who's there to audition and like who's actually already a part of the step team, because like the girls that were on the step team were like sitting there stepping or whatever, and it just looked so intimidating, like I ain't even gonna lie. So they had us put our backpacks down in a corner, and then they all had us sit down on the floor, right? And then the captain came and talked to us, and we will call her Trinity. She introduces herself, she's the captain or whatever, and she's like, you know, thank you guys so much for coming out to audition. We are looking to fill 3 spots. And so I like looked around and I was like, oh, like there was legit like 8 or 9 of us girls, and they were only looking to fill 3 spots. I guess half of us aren't making it. Before we got started, they went ahead and they were like, first we're gonna go ahead and do like a full performance for you guys so you guys can see what we're expecting and what our team looks like right now. They like start this routine, and it is like the most badass shit I had ever seen in my life, okay? Like they created this crazy ass beat, you know, and they're just like, what, and like going between their legs and shit, and like I was like, oh fuck. So they show us the routine, and then they have us all get up and we start working on this 8 count, and Trinity gets in front of us and she's teaching us step by step. All the girls that are already on the step team, they sit down and they're just like all staring at us. They had us in 2 rows, but they had it like staggered, you know, and so because I'm not like a tall person, I had to be in the front row. So I was like, shit. So I'm like right in the front row, all these girls are staring at us, and you know, they know what they're doing and I don't. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna mess up, like I'm gonna look so dumb. Trinity counts us in 5, 6, 7, 8, right? I just breathe and I'm like, okay, it's fine. So she counts us in and we go for it, and we just go at it. And I remember I messed up twice, but the first time, like you couldn't even tell, like I fixed it real fast. But there was like, I want to say like I stomped when I shouldn't have, and so like I was like so embarrassed, and I was like, whatever. So like I just tried to, I kept going though. I was like, whatever, it's fine. And so, you know, we do our whole routine and whatever. You guys, like it's such, you don't realize how much energy you're exerting when you're doing step, but let me tell you, it is so much energy. Like by the end of it, me and all the other girls were just sitting there like after that, you know, they were like, okay, you guys did great, you know, come back tomorrow and you guys will do your solos. And so that night, you know, they don't let you know, like, you know, what it's looking like, who they're leaning towards or anything like that. Like they didn't talk to us at all after that. They were like, okay, peace out. And so I grabbed my backpack and I'm like going through my audition in my head or whatever, and I'm like stressing out. That night I was like practicing all night in my room, because like I remembered the 8 count, and I was like practicing and I was like stomping and shit. And you know, I just really wanted to like be a part of a team. The next day comes around, it's the 2nd day of auditions, and now we gotta perform that choreography solo. They decided to go in alphabetical order, so I was definitely not the first girl. So I want to say like 3 or 4 girls went before me, right? And so finally Trinity looks at me and she's like, Nikki, you're up. And so you guys, like I was so nervous. I was like, oh shit. So I go up there and I do this routine, and this time I didn't mess up not one time. I was so proud of myself. And so I get through my routine. I feel like it went by really, really fast. I get through my audition and I go sit down, and the rest of the girls went. I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't even pay attention to their audition because I was like going over mine over and over in my head. And Trinity finally comes back and she was like, okay, she's like, you know, you guys all did amazing, and like, you know, we're really impressed with each and every one of you guys, and this was a super hard decision. Like I'm gonna call out the names of the girls that we've picked to fill the 3 slots in our team. It's this piece of paper, and the first name out of her mouth was Nikki. Like I was so excited. She was like, you did amazing, we're so impressed, we would love to have you on the team, blah blah, right? And I was just like so hyped. I was like, oh my god, like you guys, I was so excited and so happy. Like I can't even believe it. Like I had never done this before. Girls that didn't make it, you know, they left right away. Those of us that did make it, you know, we met with all the other girls for a few minutes before we left, and they let us know, you know, what the practice schedule was going to be like. And Trinity was a really, really good captain, and she was like, look, she was like, you know, I'm gonna be your homegirl, whatever. And she was a senior, and she was like, you know, I've been doing this for a lot of years. She told us that we were gonna be practicing 2 times a week, and if we had a performance coming up, like a pep rally, talent show, or anything, that she would bump it up to 3 times a week, right? All practices would take place in that hallway that we were already in, and she gave us a time to, you know, come to practice, which was legit right after school. So fast forward, I want to say maybe a month and a half, like after I had been accepted onto the step team and stuff, there was this huge competition that was happening, and it was going to be involving all the step teams, like from the district, right? So like from every other school in our district. It was like huge for the step teams at each school to participate in this competition. It was like bragging rights pretty much. So we were going to be going against some of the best. It was on some straight up bring it on shit, alright? Because of the size and like the importance of this competition, Trinity decided that 3 times a week wasn't going to be enough practice, that we needed to practice 5 times a week, okay? So like every day after school. So we started going to our normal spot where we always had our practices, right? But then it started becoming an issue because we were there every day of the week, and like there were swim teams and other athletes, and like that hallway was just getting very, very crowded. I think like the school coach went up to Trinity and was like, we can't have you guys here every day, like 3 times max a week, but like not every day. So Trinity came up with the idea that we would start practicing at her house, and she did not live very far from me or from the school. She literally lived like right down the street from me, and like basically from everybody else on the team. So she was like, you know what, whatever, like we don't need this space, we can practice at my house. Those of us who didn't have a car, Trinity would give us rides to her house, and then I would either get picked up by my mom or ride the RTD home. She lived in this really, really nice neighborhood, and she like lived in a cul-de-sac, and we started having our practice out there in her cul-de-sac, like in the street, right? Even though we had nothing but choreography that was just step, right? Just strictly step. But in this competition, you had to have choreography like that, and then you also had to have choreography like with music, and we were not used to that. Trinity and our co-captain like worked double time, and they came up with this routine. God, I wish I could remember the song. And so not only were we doing our regular practice, but we were learning this whole new routine, right? Like this straight up sounds like some bring it on shit, I know, okay, but just hold up. We're working so hard, we're like practicing in the middle of her street, all her neighbors are looking at us crazy or whatever, and we would be out there, you guys, for like 2-3 hours a day. I'm not even kidding. Like we all took this shit so serious. We all had to like dress the same, so we all went to Hobby Lobby and we bought like these shirts and we decorated them ourselves, and we gave each other nicknames. Trinity gave me my nickname, and I want to say it was like something super typical, like Little Mommy or Hot Mommy or something like that, like M-A-M-I, right? And like we put our nicknames on the back of the shirt, right? So like we decorated our own shirts. We had like a sleepover at Trinity's house, making our shirts or whatever. Like this was huge for us, right? One day comes around, and you know, it's a usual day, and we're practicing out in the cul-de-sac in her street, and it was like towards the end of practice. Some of the girls were like getting picked up or whatever. You know that feeling that you get when you're being watched, like you can kind of feel it? I started feeling that, and I look around and I see this guy, and he came out of his house, and he lived right next door to Trinity. And he comes out of his house, and he like stands on his porch and just like is looking at all of us, right? And so I like look over there, and immediately I kind of recognized him. You know, like when you recognize someone but you don't know from where. So like I looked over there, and I was like, and I could not stop staring at him. And it wasn't like because of that, it was just like, it was one of those moments like, where do I know him from? Like he looks so familiar. So like I start, you know, rattling my brain like, why do I know him? And I could not think of a name. I could not think of where I knew him from. So I'm like sitting there, you guys, like all stupid. And I'm like sitting there staring, and I'm like, who is that? Like, all of a sudden he like locks eyes with me, and he sees that I'm staring at him, and it's because I'm trying to figure out who the hell he is. And he just like looked at me and stared right back at me and just smiled. At this point we're just staring at each other, right? So one of my friends, she was like, ooh girl, get him. Like she like legit caught us staring at each other, and she was like, damn, I see you. And I was like, no, I didn't even like that. I was like, I'm just trying to figure out where I know him from. And she was like, oh girl, I don't know him. I walked up to Trinity, and I was like, hey, I was like, who's your neighbor? And she just kind of looked over there, she looked all annoyed, and she was like, who? Brandon? The minute that she said Brandon, I was like all of the memory came back, and I knew exactly where I knew him from, and he was in my chemistry class. I only had one class with him, and he was in my chemistry class, right? So I was like, oh yeah. And she was like, yeah. She was like, he's been my neighbor for years. And she was like, he's a complete idiot. And she looked over there, she's like, what do you want, Brandon? Why are you staring? Like, she starts like talking shit, and he was like, whatever. He's like, it's my house, I can do whatever I want. Stop coming out here, you're freaking out my girls. He looked straight at me, he was like, they don't look freaked out. He didn't go back inside, he stayed out there, and like he and I just like kept playing this eye tag and like making googly eyes at each other or whatever, right? So for like the next week in class, he and I were like low-key flirting, and like, you know, he'd look over at me and be like, hey, what's up? We started gradually talking, and he like talked to me for a little bit in class, and then he found me in the hallway, and then like we passed each other during lunch and said what's up, and you know, like we're over there smiling at each other or whatever. After our initial meeting and like us kind of like low-key flirting in class, he started coming out during our practices. Like the whole time that we were out there, from like beginning to end of practice, sitting there just watching us, like just watching us and like staring at me during practice. So like I was like, you know, so I started, you know, trying to go over there all cute or whatever. You already know. We go to this competition. It's this huge school. There are so many teams there. It was straight up like Bring It On, but like on a realer level. Like these girls with like combat boots or Timberlands and whatever, and like everybody's matching their team, and like you got like girls yelling like their school name or whatever, and like it's just crazy. We go stand by these bleachers because like there's already a team up there and they're almost done and we're next, right? So we're standing by these bleachers, and out of nowhere, one of my friends on my team, she like nudged me and she was like, your biggest fan is here. And I was like, what? And she goes, look. And she just kind of like did her head like that. I followed her gaze, and in the front row of one of the bleachers is Brandon. Like 2 or 3 of his homeboys, and they're like front and center, first row, like right there. I do have to get to the story, so if you guys would like to know the outcome of that competition and like my experience with Step, let me know down below and I'll make a whole different story time about that. But this story time is about Brandon, okay? So let's focus. So Monday came around and I had chemistry and I saw Brandon, and he came up to me and he was like, you know, you did great or whatever. And he was like, hey, I saw you at the competition, you did amazing. And I was like, hey, thanks. And I was like, what were you doing there? And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, why were you there? I was like, did you like just want to be there? And he was like, no, I went to see you. Oh, that's so sweet. I would say like fast forward like another week, and he and I just keep going back and forth and like flirting and like talking to each other more. He was one of those guys where he was like, it is what it is, I am who I am. Like he was very, very confident, and like he had like almost like this alpha male thing to him. Like he just kind of had like this bad boy thing to him. Like I didn't see him doing anything bad, but you know, like that personality, like that's what he had. And I was like, oh, like okay, I could feel it. And he was like kind of mysterious, you know, whatever. So I wish I could explain it better, but like, you know, it was like that typical bad boy thing about him. During lunch one day, he came up to me and he and I like talked throughout the entire lunch period, and he asked me to be his girlfriend, and it was very like nonchalant. And you know, he wasn't like the type to be like super mushy, but he was like, you know, I really like you, and he was like, you know, I'm really feeling you or whatever, and I just wanted to know, like, would you be down to be my girlfriend? And I was like, well, yeah. So I gave him the normal spiel, like, hey, you know, my mom doesn't allow me to date. But by this time I did have a little bit more freedom as far as like going to the mall and stuff with my friends. So I was like, you know, I can go places with you. I just can't like have you calling me all the time or texting me all the time or whatever. And he was like, oh, that's fine. And so we have that normal, you know, routine conversation that I have to have with my boyfriends. Fast forward to the next day. Okay? And there was like this area that was in front of our cafeteria. And if you got to school early, you would chill there. Like they didn't want you like all up in the hallways and whatever. Brandon had texted me and he was like, hey, I'm at school, meet me in front of the lunchroom so we can chill for a little bit. And I was like, all right, cool. So like I rode the school bus to school. So I beelined it over to where he was in front of the lunchroom. And so I walk in there and I'm like just searching and I'm just trying to find Brandon, right? I can't seem to find him. And then finally I see him and he's like sitting on the floor, his backpack's next to him, and he has his phone in his hand. I recognized 2 of his friends and they were like standing up next to him, but he was like the only one sitting on the ground, right? And you just see him like this and he's just like on his phone. And so, you know, I get all excited or whatever, I get butterflies. You know, this is like the first official day of us dating, and you know, like that weird transition period where you're like, is this gonna be awkward? Is it gonna be easy? Like, what kind of relationship are we gonna have? Like, you know, we're boyfriend and girlfriend now, you know what I'm saying? And so he's like on his phone. I was like, hey, good morning. He's on his phone. He was like, hey, what's up? And just stayed on his phone. Well, good morning to you too. So like, I immediately got an attitude and I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, you all right? Yeah, I'm good. Tired? Okay. I don't know what the hell happened, but from one day to the next, this boy switched it all up and through the place. I didn't want to seem like super needy and be like, oh my god, what's the matter? Talk to me or whatever. Like, I'm not about to beg you to talk to me. Like, it's me to meet you here, homie. Like, why are you acting all dumb? He did not talk to me at all. Like, besides, hey, what's up? And nothing's wrong. Like, that was it. And so I was like, okay. And there wasn't anywhere that I could go. And so I was like just waiting for the first bell to ring. The minute that that bell rang, I was out. Like, I didn't even say shit to him. I didn't say anything to him. I just like looked at him and just like left. Got me all the way messed up. Like, you got it twisted if you think that I'm gonna sit here and just be ignored by you and be embarrassed. So I go to my first period class and I sit down and I get a text from him. It said something along the lines of like, hey, what's up? Why didn't you say bye? You mean when your funky ass wasn't talking to me, you want me to tell you why I didn't say bye? No. I didn't even text him back. I was like, you want to ignore somebody? Fine. Be ignored. I don't need to be putting up with this shit. Like, I'm not in love with you or nothing. Like, I don't need to be putting up with your shit. And so by the end of first period, I finally looked at my phone and he had sent that one text, and then like 15 minutes later, he sent another text. Sorry about this morning. I just had a lot on my mind. Not my problem whatsoever, like in the slightest. So you have to make me feel like that, but one time for me to get it, and then I'm not about to fucks with you. Like, that was so rude. So I went on with the rest of my day. I didn't have chemistry that day, so I didn't have to see him in class or put up with this shit. I wasn't even worried about it, to be honest, you guys. Like, this was like a brand new, like, day-old relationship. Like, for you to be tripping already, no, right? The next day comes around, and on this day, I did have chemistry with him, right? He texted me again that morning and was like, hey, let's chill before school starts. Again, I ignored him. I sure did not. I met up with some friends in the lunchroom and was like, I literally walked right past him. Like, he saw me, I saw him, and I was like, no, not about to do that no more. You know, chill with my friends while they had breakfast or whatever. And out of nowhere, I see Brandon walk into the lunchroom, right? Like, by himself. And he never went in there. He always chilled out in that hallway. I don't even want to mess with you. Like, at all. He walks right up to the table and he was like, hey, can I talk to you? You want to talk to me? You actually want to talk to me? Oh my god, really? He was like, really? And I was like, what? I finally get up and I grab my backpack and I like start walking with him, and we start walking out of the lunchroom. And, you know, he walks next to me and he was like, hey, he was like, you know, I'm sorry about yesterday. I was like, don't do that to me. Don't ever in your life treat me like that ever again. You don't ignore me. You don't sit up there and be rude to me. I was like, what the hell? And he was like, I'm sorry. He was like, I was just having a bad day. I was like, okay, that sounds like a you problem. So like, I was not even like trying to hear his shit. I was like, don't do that. He was like, look, he's like, I'm really sorry. Finally, school starts and we begin that day on a good note. That day I had chemistry with him, right? And chemistry was right before lunch. Chemistry class, you know, flew by or whatever, and then it was lunch. And, you know, this was like the first time that we were together during this time. Like, you know, like I said, it's like that weird transition. Like, we start introducing each other to our friends. So the end of class comes around and, you know, he grabs my hand or whatever and he's like, where are you headed? And I was like, to the lunchroom. And he was like, oh, okay. He was like, well, he's like, I usually meet up with some friends at the back of the school. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had third period off, which means I had both A and B lunch off. So he was like, you want to come chill? I was like, well, I'm hungry. And he was like, all right. He was like, we'll stop at the vending machine. I'll get you a little something. You know, like acting like it's like so nice of him to get me some snacks or whatever. Head out to the back of the school, and like keep in mind, I never spent my time out there. Like I was always like in the lunchroom with my girls. So, you know, I felt very out of my element, but you know, you try new things for your new mans. And he starts walking me over to like the track, like for track and field. There are like these bleachers out there, and it's just he and I, and we sit on those bleachers, and he and I just like talk or whatever. This is where you hang out. And he's like, yeah, he's like, you know, me and my homies come out here. He's like, we just like chilling. He's like, I don't like being around a bunch of people or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. And like that made sense. Like I said, he was very like mysterious. Like he just didn't like being around a bunch of people. So we just chilled out there, and it was just he and I, right? And that's where he and I had our first kiss. That ended up becoming our routine. So like every other day I was spending the first half of my lunch with him out at those bleachers, and we would talk about everything. And he started telling me about his brother, and like he never went into like major detail about his family, but like little things here and there. And like, you know, we would just sit there and flirt and like, you know, do normal teenage shit, right? And like it was never anything else beyond that. And then like before I knew it, it was time for him to go to class, and I would peace out, right? So fast forward like a week and a half, pretty normal. Like, you know, it's a very low-key relationship. We would text every once in a while. Like I wasn't needy, he wasn't needy. It was very like low-key. One morning came around, and I had not heard from Brandon, and so I was like, okay, whatever. And I just had a feeling that he didn't really like clingy girls, so like I didn't want to come off that way. I was like, okay, well maybe he's like sick, or maybe like, you know, he's just gonna be late or something. And I didn't see him like at school when I got there like I usually did, and like I don't know, he was kind of MIA, but I didn't want to make it a huge deal. And then the first bell rang, and I went to my first period class, and by this point I was like, okay, I'm just gonna shoot him a quick text, it's fine. So I like text him, and it was like something along the lines of, hey, good morning, where you at? Or something like that. And I didn't get a response, like nothing, just complete silence. So I went the entire day, never got a text from him, nothing. Fast forward next day, again, he's not at school, right? And so like by this point I'm so confused, and I'm like, what the hell? And on that day I had chemistry. I didn't see him in the morning, like again the same thing, like hadn't heard from him or anything. Our teacher had handed out like this homework project or whatever, and I went up to my teacher and I was like, hey, you know, I can take Brandon's, I'm gonna see him later or whatever, like getting my boyfriend's homework or whatever from our teacher. And so I used that as an excuse to text him, right? Like without seeming needy. So like I text him and I was like, hey, just letting you know, I got your homework from Mr. So-and-so, like so you don't fall behind, hope everything's okay. Like very, you know, nonchalant. Fast forward to the next day, same shit. You guys, this boy disappeared off of the face of the earth, and like I did not hear anything about him or from him. And I had so much pride back then, and I cared so much about what like other people thought about me, that I never wanted somebody to feel like I'm caught up, like that I cared that much, you know. But even though I kind of did. It was in the morning, and I got this text. It was like before I even got to school, I was still on the bus, and I got a text from him, and he's like, sorry, I just disappeared. I've been really sick and I was in the hospital. I immediately felt so bad, and I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, hey, are you okay? Like what happened? And he was like, nothing. And he texted me right back, and he was like, nah, I'm good. He was like, I think it's just like the stomach flu or something. I'll be back at school really soon. He didn't give me like any details or anything. It was just very short and sweet, right? So like he's sick. He's been in and out of the hospital, I guess, but he's fine. So I was like, okay. And you know, it's so new into our relationship that I can't be like, what the fuck? Like, why did you leave me? Like, without knowing where you are or whatever. So fast forward to later that day. Like, I just heard from Brandon. He told me that he was sick. He had the stomach flu, whatever, right? And so that day I had chemistry again. And so I go to my chemistry class, and I had this girlfriend of mine. We'll call her Sarah. So, you know, I sat next to Sarah in my chemistry class. So I go into class or whatever, and, you know, it was before class actually started. So, you know, we're all just kind of chilling there and like talking or whatever before the teacher even came into class. And, you know, it was a super normal day, and, you know, I'm not worried about Brandon anymore. Like, it is what it is. And I start taking stuff out of my backpack. She just kind of started acting weird. Out of nowhere, she was like So did you get in trouble? What? Did you get in trouble with that whole thing that happened with Brandon? Completely lost, like not even like an iota. I had no clue what she was talking about. There was no introduction to this conversation or anything. It was just like the weirdest thing. You didn't get in trouble? Like you didn't get called down? And I was like, called down to where? And she goes, to the principal's office. And like the minute that she realized it, she was like, oh shit, you don't know? And I was like, no what, Sarah? I was like, obviously not, girl. Oh, I can't stand that. Like when I'm obviously confused, like just fill me in, okay? Like stop with all the questions. Brandon getting suspended. I'm sorry. Come again? I'm sorry, what? He got suspended. And you guys, I just looked and felt so stupid. Like I looked real dumb. And like, he hasn't been suspended, he's been sick. And she was like, he is not sick, girl. She's like, he got suspended for 2 weeks. And I was like, for what? And she goes, for selling. For the sake of YouTube, okay, because I'm not trying to get demonetized, we're gonna call it, you know, oregano, okay? She's like, girl, stop it. She was like, I know you knew. And I was like, I didn't know. And you guys, I was so like confused and embarrassed and like, what are you talking about? Stop. She's like, you can tell me. She was like, it's whatever. She's like, you know, I don't judge. And I was like, I don't give a damn. I was like, I'm telling you. I was like, Sarah, I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, he got caught last week for like selling out at the back of the school at the track. What? Yeah, she's like, Nikki, I cannot believe you don't know this. And I was like, why don't you go ahead and fill me in, Sarah, since Brandon's not telling me shit. She was like, him and like 3 other boys got suspended. Like, but he got suspended the longest because he was like selling on school property. Yeah, but they didn't catch him with it actually on him. They caught the kids that he sold it to, and like they all said that they got it from Brandon, right? She was like, he's been skipping class and going out there to the track and like selling over there. Once they found out, she's like, they started calling kids down to the office to like ask them if they had like, you know, bought anything from Brandon and like figure out who he sold to. I for sure thought that you were gonna be one of them. She was like, because you know, you used to go out there all the time. I was like, I've been out there like all last week. I was like, but girl, when we went out there, like nothing. Like I swear on everything, he didn't show me nothing. He didn't tell me nothing. Like I never saw anybody come up to him and talk to him about that. It's a thing, okay? I'm not even gonna lie. Back in high school, I used to judge so hard. Like I used to be so judgy about that shit, like people that would mess with oregano, because you hear it all the time. It's bad, you're gonna get suspended, like it's against the law, blah blah blah. And like, so I just like had this mentality, like I'm not trying to fucks with that shit. So like anytime, you guys, I would not date guys that if I knew that they like dabbled in that shit. Like I just was not about that life. I don't know what it was, but I was super judgy about that back then. And so you guys, I was so pissed that I got on my phone. She's still like spilling all the tea and she's talking or whatever, and I get on my phone and I text Brandon and I was like, hey, thanks for telling me that you got suspended. I don't put up with this shit. We're done. Seconds later, he texts me back. I'm sorry, I wanted to tell you, I just didn't want to get you involved, whatever. And y'all, I was not about it. I could have been dragged into that. Do you know what my mother would have done to me if they thought that I was out there and I knew about the shit that you were doing and I got suspended because of you? Like, do you know how lucky I am to have not been pulled into all of this, and like how much my life would be over right now if my mom thought that I was doing some shit like that? Do you know how stupid I feel right now? All this past week, you lying to my ass and ghosting my ass and not talking to me or nothing, and I find out that you got suspended because of some stupid shit like that, because you're over here selling at school. Are you serious? No ma'am, no sir, no God, no. And then you're gonna sit up here and lie to me and like, I was like all worried and stuff, like, oh, he's got like the stomach flu and he's been in and out of the hospital, like I hope he's okay, and like all this other shit. How stupid, like how dumb. Sarah's ass told me the the truth, I started hearing it from everywhere. Like, she literally was like, hey, she was like asking the guy across the table, was like, Aaron, she was like, you know about what happened with Brandon, right? She was like, you heard about that? And he was like, oh yeah. He was like, did you get in trouble? Before I could even answer, Sarah was like, no, she didn't even know. Like, he didn't even tell her. And she was like, all this time, she thought he was sick. Shut up. Like, can you not tell everybody that I was this dumb? Like, shut up. So, like, you know, she don't want to keep her mouth. You guys, I was so embarrassed. I was just like embarrassed for multiple reasons, and I was mad, and I was just like, what the fuck? You had me out there. Like, you brought me out there knowing what the hell you were doing out there, and like, I had a conversation with you, and what did I say? My mother is crazy. I'm not allowed to date, but I can definitely, you know, meet you sometime. But I had the same conversation with him about my crazy mother, and you are going to sit up there and purposely take me out to the same area that you're doing your dirt in. Are you serious right now? So, I sent that text message to Brandon. I was so bad. I'm hearing about this from all these different people. All of them knew where he was. All of them had heard that he got suspended. I have no idea how it got past me. I have no idea how I went that long without like anybody, like, but I guess it makes sense because like they said, they all knew that I was his girlfriend. So like, how the fuck would I not know? You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know. So like, you guys, I was like beyond embarrassed. I was beyond pissed. They didn't give me the respect to tell me the truth and talk to me, so I'm not about to respect you enough to talk to you. It's over. Like, I said what I said, and it's over. Meanwhile, like legit, you guys, like the next day was the day that I got the text message for the first time from Robert's funky ass, telling me that he had seen me in the pep rally, and like he went to my church. And so like I started getting text messages from this other guy, right, which was Robert, and I was so mad, and I was so embarrassed, and I was like so over it that I started talking to Robert. Like, I don't need to be putting up with your shit. You think I need to be putting up with your shit? The next one's already in line, okay? Y'all, I did. I straight up did. So, you know, while he was suspended and I had no idea, I started talking to Robert. And I didn't start dating him right away. And another week had passed, and Brandon was still suspended, and during that week I was getting to know Robert. The time Brandon came back, in the next 2 weeks, Robert and I started dating, and so Brandon got pissed. You guys, it became an issue. Brandon came back to school after his suspension, and by this point he had been suspended for like 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks. And he came back to school, and I'm like over it. I was not texting him back. And like he was like all up on my phone, freaking out. He was like trying to get his friends to come talk to me and like apologize on his behalf, and can you please text him back? And I was like, no. He and I did not say word one to each other after that at all. Until like towards the end of the year, then he and I, we didn't become cool, but we just became cordial. Because of this entire situation, from the time that Brandon got suspended to the time that I like officially got with Robert, it was like 3 weeks, right? I didn't feel like, you know, I'm moving on too fast, because it wasn't a relationship. Like, there wasn't anything substantial there. But because people like being nosy and having an opinion about shit that ain't none of their business, some of the girls on my step team, and like some girls that like I had no clue who the hell they were, had an issue with me because they were like, you, instead of like just being down for him, you just moved on, and when he was suspended you started talking to Robert. Like, that's fucked up. And I was like, really? Is it though? Because I didn't even know that he was suspended. And like, I like kept having to explain myself, and like once they found out, they were like, oh, he didn't tell you? And I was like, girl, no, he didn't tell me. He didn't tell me shit. Like, nothing. Like, he just ghosted my ass and told me that he was sick and like lied to me or whatever. And so, you know, I kept having to explain myself, and I just got tired of it. I was like, I ain't explaining not shit to none of y'all. Y'all not. I don't have to explain myself to y'all, okay? Y'all think that I made the wrong decision, and the fact that he and I, our relationship was pretty much non-existent, you don't know that. You want to know why? Because it ain't none of your business. Nice opinion, honey. Don't care about it. That was the story about the time that I dated the bad boy, aka the drug dealer of this school, and I had no idea about it. Like, dead ass, I had no idea about it. Like, I swear on everything, I had no clue what was going on. And I just didn't like the way he handled it. Like, I just did not appreciate the way he was treating me from jump. And so, like, for you to, like, start out our relationship like that and be all rude as fuck, and then I find out that you were, like, selling, and then, like, I could have been brought into that, and then you just ghosted my ass, and then you lied to me, and then I find out everything that happened, and that, like, you're suspended for some stupid shit like that. Like, no. That is a story about the time that I dated the bad boy. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give me a huge thumbs up to let me know. Also, don't forget to hit that big subscribe button to be a part of my Glamour family. It is ever growing and it makes me so happy. While you're down there, don't forget to smash that notification button to be notified each time I upload a video. Make sure that you don't miss out by hitting that notification bell so you will be notified of each time I upload a video, including story times. Thank you guys so much for coming and chilling with me for today's story time. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm pretty sure, I mean, some of you guys are going to be like, maybe you did move on too fast. I mean, I don't really know how to explain this to y'all. Like, it really wasn't a relationship, so moving on from what? And I will see you guys very, very soon for an Ask Nikki. I'm actually already editing it, so don't worry, I got you. I love you guys, and I will see you guys very soon in my next video. Peace out.